The more he hurts her, the more she remembers him. Why do the men who break her heart stay longest in her memory? She just walked away from a toxic relationship. She cried. She vented. She told her friends he didn't respect her, didn't love her the right way, maybe even cheated. And yet, weeks later, she texts him back. Or worse, she's with him again. Sound familiar? Or maybe you're the good guy, you listen, you care. You do all the right things, but she doesn't choose you. What's going on here? Do women like being treated badly? The short answer is no, but they are often drawn to a specific emotional experience, one that only toxic men tend to trigger. And that experience isn't love, it's intensity, it's emotional unpredictability, it's the sensation of danger mixed with desire. Healthy love is calm, predictable, stable, but a woman's primal instincts aren't activated by calm. They're awakened by the unknown, by emotional challenge, by the illusion of power she's trying to gain back. A man who is emotionally unavailable, confident, cold, even occasionally cruel, creates a dynamic of emotional highs and lows that mimics addiction. She doesn't know where she stands with him, and that uncertainty makes her chase. Why is it so hard for her to leave? Because the emotional volatility is intoxicating, even if it's painful. She's not addicted to the toxic man. She's addicted to the feelings he unlocks. Sometimes pain feels more alive than peace. The biology of attraction, when instinct defeats logic. You think she's choosing with her mind, but her body made the decision long before she realized. We've been taught that attraction is a conscious choice, that we fall in love through conversation, compatibility, and values. But that's only part of the truth, the polite, idealized version. The raw truth is this: attraction happens before logic. It's not rational, it's biological, and it's ancient. Thousands of years ago, women didn't survive by picking the nicest man. They survived by sensing dominance, confidence, strength, and mystery, all signals that the man could protect, lead, and ensure survival of her offspring. Today, those signals don't look like spears and hunting. They look like status, emotional detachment, boundary setting, and unapologetic confidence. A man who challenges her, who doesn't validate her instantly, who keeps her guessing, activates her evolutionary wiring. This man is hard to get. He must be valuable. Meanwhile, the man who is always available, too agreeable, too eager to please, is biologically processed as low value. It's not that she chooses the toxic man, it's that her ancient brain sees him first. Even when her logical mind screams, "He's bad for me," her body has already whispered, "But he feels powerful." Attraction is not logical, it is primal, and the brainstem always votes first. The dopamine loop. Why women get emotionally addicted to chaos. She doesn't love the chaos. She loves the chemical high it gives her. Let's talk brain chemistry. When you text her after ignoring her for 3 days, when you apologize after being cold, when you show just enough vulnerability to make her feel special again, that's not love. That's dopamine, and it's addictive. You see, the human brain is wired to seek novelty, not stability, and unpredictability. The hallmark of toxic relationships creates dopamine spikes far stronger than routine affection ever could. The emotional roller coaster you put her on, it gives her reward highs followed by anxious lows, the same cycle used in slot machines. One day you're sweet, the next you pull away. She doesn't know what changed and she tries harder. That effort, that emotional labor, reinforces the chase. Eventually, her brain starts linking you to the chemistry, not the character. She's not addicted to who you are. She's addicted to the chemical cycle you've created. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it's the most powerful behavioral hook known in psychology. More powerful than consistency, more powerful than logic, even more powerful than real love. The more unpredictable he is, the more her brain lights up, and the more she confuses chaos with passion. Love is calm, addiction is dramatic. She just doesn't know which one she's chasing. The savior complex, why women think they can fix him. She knows he's broken, but part of her hopes she'll be the one who heals him. There's a subtle fantasy that lives in many women, often unspoken but deeply rooted. It's the belief that love can redeem, That inside every emotionally unavailable man, there's a wounded boy waiting to be saved. And if she's just patient enough, kind enough, different enough, she'll be the one who changes him. Psychologists call this the savior complex. It's not just about nurturing, it's about proving her worth through healing someone else's damage. The toxic man. He's the perfect puzzle, broken, mysterious, chaotic, and fixing him becomes her mission. Not because it makes sense, but because it gives her a sense of emotional identity. She doesn't just want a relationship. She wants a story, a transformation. She wants to look back and say, he used to be that way, until me. But here's the twist: he doesn't change. Because he never needed healing, he needed control. And the more she tries to fix him, the deeper she falls into his emotional trap. Her compassion becomes a leash. Her patience becomes permission. And slowly she confuses her pain with her purpose. She didn't fall in love with who he is. She fell in love with who she imagined he could become for her. But love isn't a rescue mission, and she's not his rehab. The illusion of strength. Why toxic men appear more alpha than they are. Confidence is not always strength. Sometimes it's just silence hiding dysfunction. In the age of hypermasculinity, we've confused emotional detachment with power and arrogance with confidence. Toxic men often appear alpha, not because they are truly strong, but because they know how to simulate strength. Let's break that down. He doesn't chase. He responds slowly. He rarely shows vulnerability. He sets harsh boundaries. He acts like he's in control. To the untrained eye, that looks powerful. But true strength is centered, not reactive. It is self-aware, not performative. A man who ghosted her isn't strong, he's avoidant. A man who withholds love isn't dominant, he's emotionally immature. But here's the psychological twist: ambiguity plus dominance. Arshanton allure. When a woman can't read a man, she's intrigued. When he pulls away, she wonders what she did wrong. And in that confusion, her brain fills the gap with projection. Maybe he's busy. Maybe he's just confident. Maybe he's different. She starts chasing his attention like it's a prize, not realizing the pedestal was built on her own assumptions. Many toxic men aren't powerful. They're just silent long enough for her to imagine they are. Real alpha doesn't confuse. It calms. But confusion feels like chemistry, and that's the trap. The fear of boredom. Why good men are overlooked. She said she wanted a nice guy, but when he showed up, she got bored. Let's get brutally honest. Many women say they want stability, kindness, emotional safety, and they mean it until they actually get it. Why? Because the human brain, especially when conditioned by emotional highs and lows, is not wired to crave peace. It's wired to crave stimulation. When a good man shows up, steady, respectful, emotionally available, he feels safe. But to someone who's used to the emotional roller coaster of chaos and toxicity, safe feels boring. Not because he lacks value, but because he doesn't trigger the adrenaline. He doesn't leave her waiting. He doesn't challenge her identity. He doesn't awaken the fixer or chaser in her. And in a world where intensity is often confused with intimacy, she quietly labels him as nice, but no spark. She doesn't realize what she's mistaking as spark in toxic men was actually emotional anxiety disguised as chemistry. And the good guy, he never had a chance because he didn't play the game. He simply showed up, honest. Good men don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they're stable in a world addicted to chaos. And when her nervous system calms down, she'll realize he was the one. Her shadow self, the part of her that chooses the pain. Not every woman wants to be saved. Some are loyal to their wounds. Every human being carries a shadow, the hidden part of the psyche filled with repressed desires, unmet needs, shame, and unresolved pain. Carl Jung called it the unconscious self we refuse to see. For many women, this shadow is shaped not just by society, but by early emotional experiences: a distant father, a controlling mother, a first love that hurt deeply, a childhood belief that love must be earned. And this shadow doesn't vanish, it whispers in every relationship. So when a toxic man enters her life, the pain feels familiar, not comfortable but recognizable, not healthy but safe in a twisted way. Because part of her, the shadow part, believes she deserves this, that love is supposed to hurt, that if she suffers long enough, she'll finally be worthy of being chosen. And this belief system becomes a silent compass, guiding her back to the same kind of man over and over again. Not because she's blind, but because her pain feels like home. She's not broken, she's repeating. The pattern isn't random, it's rooted. Until she faces the shadow, she'll keep confusing intensity with intimacy and pain, with passion. When she wakes up, what happens when she finally sees him for what he is? There comes a moment when the chaos no longer excites her, it exhausts her. The cycle can only last so long. Eventually, her body gets tired. Her heart can't take one more silent treatment. Her mind starts asking different questions. Not how can I fix him, but why do I keep fixing men like him? And that's the beginning of the awakening. It's not loud. It doesn't come with fireworks. It happens in the quiet. Maybe she's crying in the shower. Maybe she's staring at her phone knowing he won't text back. Maybe it's when someone finally says, "You don't look like yourself anymore." And in that moment, she sees it. Not just him, the manipulative, avoidant, emotionally unavailable version. She sees herself, how far she's strayed from who she was before him. How small she's become in trying to be enough for someone who never intended to love fully. The spell breaks. She doesn't need a dramatic ending. No revenge, no speech, just silence and walking away. Because now she understands she was never asking for too much. She was asking the wrong person. The moment she stops trying to change him is the moment she begins to reclaim herself. Healing doesn't always feel powerful. Sometimes it's just finally losing interest. The role of society, how culture romanticizes the toxic archetype. He's emotionally unavailable, cold-controlling, but in movies they call him mysterious. From Hollywood to TikTok, from romantic comedies to dark dramas, we are surrounded by stories that glorify the toxic man. He's the bad boy with a motorcycle, the tortured artist who doesn't talk about his past, the CEO who controls everything but suddenly softens. Just for her, sound familiar? This isn't just storytelling, it's subconscious programming. Because over time, media teaches women to associate love with pain, uncertainty, emotional labor, and the fantasy of changing him. In most movies, the toxic man is never held accountable. Instead, he's saved by her love. He opens up at the last second. He suddenly becomes vulnerable. But in real life, that moment never comes. The damage just continues. The truth is, we've romanticized emotional trauma. We've sold chaos as chemistry. We've built entire cultural blueprints on the idea that you can love someone into becoming better. But real love isn't cinematic. It's consistent. And consistency doesn't make for thrilling plot lines, but it makes for healthy lives. Culture turned red flags into fairy tales, and we wonder why reality feels so disappointing. The toxic man is not a fantasy. He's a warning sign wrapped in charisma. What real strength looks like. Choosing men who don't need to be fixed. He doesn't need healing. He's already whole. And that's why he feels boring at first. After all the heartbreak, confusion, and chasing, something shifts. She no longer wants the man who keeps her guessing. She doesn't crave the emotional chaos that once felt like passion. She doesn't mistake silence for depth or coldness for confidence. Now she wants clarity. She wants peace. And above all, she wants truth. That's where real strength shows up. Not in a man who withholds love, but in one who gives it freely without fear. Not in emotional distance, but in emotional maturity. Not in the thrill of the chase, but in the calm of being seen, respected, and chosen. But here's the hard part. The good man, the stable, emotionally healthy, self-aware man, doesn't demand attention. He doesn't create confusion. He creates space, and space at first feels unfamiliar, even scary. Because when you've been addicted to toxicity, peace feels like emptiness. But peace isn't empty. It's just quiet. And in that quiet, you hear your own voice again. She didn't need to fix him. She needed to fix the part of herself that kept falling for people who needed fixing. Real love isn't found in chaos. It's found in someone who brings you back to yourself.